Imagine a world without cities, without writing, and without iron. 10,000 years ago, deep within the lush, ancient forest of West Africa, a group of hunter-gatherers gathered for a ritual that defies everything we thought we knew about early human behavior. They were not merely burying their dead, they were using the transformative power of fire to send the soul into the afterlife. This is the story of a woman whose charred remains challenge our entire understanding of civilization and ancient spirituality. For decades, the narrative of human progress was simple: we were primitive nomads until the dawn of agriculture. But a groundbreaking discovery in a remote rock shelter has set the archaeological world ablaze. Researchers have uncovered evidence of a high-temperature cremation dating back nearly 10 millennia. This was no accidental brushfire. This was a deliberate, controlled, and deeply symbolic act. It suggests that the people of the African Stone Age possessed a complexity of thought that we are only now beginning to appreciate. The site itself is a window into a vanished world. Located in the dense greenery of what is now modern-day Nigeria, the rock shelter provided refuge for generations. To find the evidence, scientists had to dig through layers of time, past the artifacts of the Iron Age and the Neolithic, down to a level where the earth still holds the secrets of the early Holocene. Here, the soil changed color, revealing a dark, ashy lens that shouldn't have existed in such an ancient context. 10,000 years ago, the geography of Africa was vastly different. The region was experiencing the African humid period, a time when the Sahara was green and teeming with life. In the forest of West Africa, the ecosystem was incredibly rich, providing everything a community needed to thrive. It was within this vibrant, thriving landscape that our ancestors began to grapple with the ultimate mystery: what happens to us when the breath leaves our body? Their answer was found in the flames. Among the charcoal fragments, archaeologists identified the remains of a single individual. Detailed analysis revealed they belonged to a woman. Her bones were not just broken, they were warped and cracked in a way that only occurs when flesh is subjected to intense, sustained heat. This wasn't a quick disposal. To achieve such results, the community had to maintain a massive fire for hours, requiring a significant amount of fuel and a collective effort that speaks to her importance. What makes this discovery so startling is the level of technical knowledge it implies. Cremation requires a temperature of at least 600 degrees Celsius to effectively break down human remains. Achieving this in a wild environment, 10,000 years ago, is an engineering feat. These hunter-gatherers understood the properties of different woods and how to manage airflow to create an inferno hot enough to transform bone into ash. They were masters of the element of fire in ways we never imagined. Skeptics initially wondered if this could have been a tragic accident, perhaps a forest fire or a campfire gone wrong. However, the positioning of the remains and the lack of other charred debris suggest a focused, intentional event. The woman was likely placed in a specific posture, surrounded by materials that would fuel the blaze. This was a choreographed ceremony, a final gift from the living to the dead, performed with a precision that suggests a well-established cultural tradition. Gathering the wood for such a fire would have been a communal task involving every member of the tribe. Men, women, and children would have ventured into the forest to find specific types of dry hardwood. This shared labor suggests that the death of one individual impacted the entire group. In a world where survival was a daily struggle, spending so much energy on a funeral rite indicates a profound social bond and a belief system that transcended the material world. Why choose cremation over simple burial? For many ancient cultures, fire was seen as a purifying force. It was a way to release the spirit from the physical vessel of the body, allowing it to rise with the smoke into the heavens. In the belief systems of ancient Africa, the transition to the ancestral realm was a critical journey. By turning the body to ash, these early Nigerians may have been ensuring that the deceased could complete their voyage without being tethered to the earth. The life of this woman, 10,000 years ago, was undoubtedly difficult. Biological analysis of Stone Age remains often shows signs of heavy physical labor, periods of scarcity, and the constant threat of disease. Yet, the care taken with her passing suggests she was valued. Perhaps she was a healer, a storyteller, or a respected elder whose wisdom guided the group. Her cremation was an act of high honor, a final tribute to a life that mattered in the deep time of history. In the early Holocene, West Africa was a cradle of innovation. While we often look to the Nile Valley or Mesopotamia for the origins of culture, sites like Iwo Eleru prove that complex social structures were evolving across the continent. These people were not just surviving, they were thinking, dreaming, and creating rituals that mirrored the complexity of their environment. The cremation of this woman is a smoking gun, proving that the African Stone Age was a time of intellectual awakening. Fire has always been a central pillar of African life. It provided warmth, protection from predators, and a means to cook food. But this discovery shows it was also a spiritual tool. The mastery of fire for ritual purposes suggests a level of abstraction, the ability to use a physical element to represent a metaphysical concept. This leap in cognition is what separates humans from the rest of the animal kingdom, and it was happening in the heart of Africa 10 millennia ago. When we compare this West African find to other global sites, its significance grows even larger. Cremations from this period are incredibly rare worldwide. While some evidence exists in the Near East and Europe, the African discovery challenges the idea that this practice is spread from a single center. Instead, it suggests that human groups across the globe were independently developing similar ways to honor their dead, driven by a shared human impulse to find meaning in the face of mortality. The science behind this discovery is meticulous. Archaeologists used carbon dating to pinpoint the age of the charcoal, while osteologists examined the bone fragments under high-powered microscopes. They looked for the telltale signs of thermal alteration, changes in the bone's crystalline structure that only occur at specific temperatures. Every tiny shard of bone told a story of heat, fire, and a community that refused to let their companions simply disappear into the soil without a powerful, fiery send-off. Who was she, this woman of the fire? While we cannot know her name, we can glimpse her world. She lived in a time of transition, as the great ice sheets far to the north were melting and the world was warming. Her people were highly mobile, following the movements of animals and the ripening of wild fruits. They were expert botanists and master trackers. To them, the forest was not a wilderness, but a home filled with spirits, ancestors, and the ever-present power of the sun. Near the cremation site, researchers found a variety of microliths, small, finely crafted stone tools. These were the high-tech equipment of the day, used for hunting, processing skins, and carving wood. The presence of these tools near the woman's remains suggests they may have been personal belongings or ritual offerings. Even in death, she was surrounded by the items that defined her life, bridging the gap between the world of the living and the mysterious realm of the ancestors. The discovery at Iwo Eleru also highlights the incredible preservation challenges in tropical Africa. The heat and humidity of the Nigerian climate usually destroy organic material within centuries, let alone millennia. That this charred fragment survived for 10,000 years is nothing short of a miracle. The fire that consumed her body ironically became the very thing that preserved her story, baking the bone into a state that could withstand the ravages of time and the acidic forest soil. This find forces us to reconsider the Stone Age label. It sounds primitive, but there was nothing primitive about the emotions or the intellect of these people. They experienced grief, they practiced reverence, and they possessed a deep understanding of the natural world. The woman's cremation was a sophisticated response to the universal human experience of loss. It was a statement of identity, a declaration that even in a nomadic life, some things were worth stopping for, and some people were worth remembering. As the fire burned low 10,000 years ago, the community would have gathered the remaining fragments. In many African traditions, the ashes themselves hold power. They might have been buried within the rock shelter, scattered in a sacred river, or kept as a connection to the departed. This continuity of memory is a hallmark of African culture, where the ancestors are never truly gone, but remain an active part of the community, guiding the living from the shadows of the past. The Iwo Eleru woman is a reminder that the history of Africa is far deeper and more complex than often portrayed. Long before the pyramids were built, Long before the great empires of Mali or Benin rose to power, the foundations of African spirituality and social cohesion were being laid in the forests and savannas. This cremation is a beacon from the deep past, illuminating the creative and intellectual spark that has always defined the people of the African continent. Archaeology is more than just finding old objects, it's about reconnecting with our shared humanity. When we look at the evidence of this ancient cremation, we don't see a primitive specimen. We see a daughter, a mother, or a friend. We see a community that cared enough to build a fire hot enough to reach the stars. We see ourselves. The distance of 10,000 years fades away when we confront the universal rituals of love, death, and the search for what lies beyond. Today, the site of Iwo Eleru remains a place of profound silence and mystery. The trees still whisper in the wind, and the spirits of the ancient ones seem to linger in the cool air of the rock shelter. For the scientists who study this place, every grain of sand is a potential clue to a story that is still being written. The 10,000-year-old cremation is just the beginning. How many more secrets are hidden beneath the soil of West Africa, waiting for the light? This discovery challenges the world to look at African prehistory with new eyes. It demands a seat at the table of global human development. The story of our species is not complete without the chapters written in the Nigerian forest. The woman who was cremated nearly 10,000 years ago is a witness to the enduring strength and sophistication of African culture, a legacy of fire and spirit that has survived through the ages and continues to inspire us today. As we move forward into an uncertain future, we look back to find our grounding. The first flames of ritual and remembrance were lit by people who were more like us than we ever dared to believe. They faced the darkness with fire, and they faced death with a vision of something more. The woman of Iwo Eleru may have been reduced to ash, but her story has been rekindled, shining a light on the brilliant, ancient dawn of the African soul.